Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, how dare you stand up here and coldly quote statistics of failed local government as if you are not part of the failure of local government. You, sir, spent 4 years as Deputy President, the leader of government business, and today marks the 5th anniversary of your tenure as President. That's 9 years that you have had to fix local government, sir. Your very own 9 wasted years. It was you, sir, that appointed Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as the Minister in the COGTA role. She has failed municipalities dismally, but more importantly, she has failed residents. This is demonstrated not only in the implosion of municipalities, but also by her department's own evaluation, having not achieved almost half of the agreed departmental outcomes. Mr. President, I'm quite pleased that you didn't mention the district development model in your SONA speech this year. I presume that you have realized that this project was dead before it even started. But Mr. President, the line that you spoke last week about enhancing capacity amongst officials was a copy, almost a copy and paste of your speech from 2021. In fact, if one looks back to the promises that were made in the NDP when it was launched in 2013, the same promises were there and have been regularly repeated ever since. But on the ground, sir, dololo, nothing. Also in last week's speech, you promised that interventions from national government would take place where local governments fail in their responsibilities. This should not be something new either. The Constitution makes it an imperative, especially in cases such as the Mfuleni local municipality, where the provincial efforts at administration have failed repeatedly. 5 years of provincial administration and the experience of people living in Mfuleni has become dramatically worse, not better. But while speaking of the failed Mfuleni, one just has to look next door to Midvaal, their neighbor, which announced their 9th consecutive clean audit earlier this month. Service delivery, while under pressure as a result of the population growth, as people come to Midvaal seeking a better quality of life, service delivery continues. This is simply because of good governance, a term that is poorly understood, but is probably better described as the DA difference. But the Midvaal story is not alone. Instead of comparing two different municipalities, let's compare the DA-led Umgeni municipality with itself when it was under ANC government until recently. The stark contrast is understood after a brief discussion with the people of Mpopomeni, who are receiving fair services for the first time ever, smashing the myth that the DA only services wealthy suburbs. The DA is raising the standard of living across all racial and economic groups, and doing this while also paying off the municipality's ANC-incurred debts. The residents of South Africa are voting with their feet, migrating in numbers to Democratic Alliance-led municipalities and to the DA-led Western Cape province. Yes, it takes time to turn around a big metro after years of ANC misrule, mismanagement, and misappropriation, especially with the underqualified and over-politicized cadres that are deployed in municipalities at all levels. Yes, coalitions are hard to manage, especially in minority governments. But overall, if you live in a DA-led municipality, you can rest assured that the funds entrusted to the council are being well spent on a service delivery-focused agenda. While the model of local government in South Africa does indeed need some tweaking, the model is not the cause of the collapse. The thieving ANC is the cause of the collapse. Mr. President, I'm sure I don't need to remind you that you are not only the president of our country, but you are also the president of the ANC. In fact, you've made it plain to South Africans on numerous occasions that you disappointingly value your ANC presidency above that of South Africa. But how can you have allowed there to be 2 ANC mayors in the Northwest Province in Ditsobotla municipality for almost 2 years? How embarrassing and ridiculous to have a mayor from each of the two biggest factions within your organization, and your minister did nothing. And you, Mr. President, did nothing, not as the President of South Africa, nor as the President of the ANC. Mr. President, it's way past time for a decisive shuffle. The media is full of stories claiming that Minister Dlamini-Zuma will remain in the failed COGTA portfolio in spite of her proven ineptitude. Perhaps she'll be ensuring that cigarettes and alcohol are banned because their consumption may lead to increased electricity usage under your version of a state of disaster. The fact is, Mr. President, that any cabinet shuffle will still leave us with the same rotten ANC members that we already have, like the boorish police minister. The best of the ANC is substantially worse than the worst of the DA. This country does not need a cabinet shuffle, it needs a government shuffle. Waza 2024, Waza freedom from the ANC, Waza freedom for all South Africans.
Your time is up.